Start of the season, I said that Thomas Soucek was going to get between 8 and 10 Premier League goals this season. I wish I'd have put a bet on that because I'm going to be right. In fact, it's going to be 10. It's got to be 10, really, hasn't it? Let's be fair. So what's that? 17 games played and 26 points on the board. Everybody has got 26 points on the board, by the way. But the guy is an absolute phenomenon. These players that score these goals from central midfield are premium. They really are. It's funny, actually, bearing in mind I spent the last 2 days discussing quite how much money West Ham lose by buying their record transfers. Actually, the whatever it might have been, the 18 million or whatever Thomas Soucek will eventually cost, will turn out to be a bargain. Where I think it plays into our hands is I don't think there are that many teams that would want to buy him. For example, you don't get into Manchester City's team. You don't get into Liverpool's team. He sort of falls between the margins of those players who are not quite good enough for the top clubs. In terms of goal scoring, absolutely fine. But he doesn't have the all-round game to be a world-class player. But that works to our advantage totally. Do I think he could go and be a squad player at any one of those clubs? Absolutely. But as a starter, probably not. He's probably not quite quick enough. His technical abilities, passing, you need to have something else. I'll give you Paul Pogba as an example, who has got everything. Doesn't apply it, unfortunately for him, but he can tackle, long-range passing, short-range passing, dribbling, shoots off either foot. Wonderful, wonderful player when he's on his day. But his day is not very often. Thomas Soucek's day is every day because he runs and works hard and gets every little bit out of his talent that he possibly can. And what he does is he's gifted beyond measure in timing his runs. And just, Gio pointed out, it was, if a striker was getting into those positions, we'd all be praising him. Arsene Wenger once coined it, and he meant a striker when he was talking about it. He said a fox in the box. Someone that can sniff out space, someone that can sniff out a chance. Well, he's got it. He just happens to come from midfield and do it. Frank Lampard was like that, although Frank would also hit a lot more longer shots. Soucek may well score a few long shots in his time, but not with that many. He doesn't need to. He times his run into the box. He's got a reputation for scoring with his head, rightly so. Arrives at the back post, nods it in. Lovely. But that might be his third goal for West Ham with his feet. And he's going to get an awful lot more. I just think it's not quite. We signed him last winter window, last January window, wasn't it? So he's not quite done a year at West Ham just yet. But he's done 11 months and a bit, something like that. But what a first year it's been. He was absolutely integral in keeping us up. He was, alongside Jared Bowen in terms of signings, one of the main players and one of the main protagonists in keeping West Ham in the Premier League. A hugely successful signing. I'm not sure we'll ever find out who scouted him. The funny thing is, Thomas Soucek is the scout. This is what, what came first, the chicken or the egg? So we know where Soufal came from. We know that Thomas Soucek is scouting other players in Slavia Prague. But who scouted Thomas Soucek? That's the question. Who scouted the Super Scout? How much does that add to the value? The fact that he can go and cherry pick players from overseas. I jest, of course. But one thing I'm not mucking around about is quite how good a player he is and quite how effective he's been for West Ham. It's been a massive part. The stats are up there again. When he played in the Champions League with Slavia Prague, he ran as much as anyone. When they did the miles or meters covered, however they measure it, he ran as much in the Champions League as anyone. The same thing in the Czech Republic's qualifying group, European qualifying group, World Cup, whatever it was. He'd run as much as anybody else. Same thing. His first stint in the Premier League for West Ham, he covered more ground than anyone else. He does not stop. That's why this guy has just come off the back of 3 games in a row for West Ham. He was never remotely in the frame for being dropped. He just keeps going. And I'll tell you what, the commentator alluded to in that game against Everton, that he was the perfect foil, the perfect partner for Declan Rice. I'm absolutely, well, he's right, whoever the comment, it was Steve McManaman, I think. He was absolutely right, absolutely bang on. I'll tell you what, for all the fanfare and all the razzmatazz that some of the midfielders at Everton have got get. I'm talking about Decore, who had a big reputation at Watford, signed from Watford for big money, big reputation again. I thought he was played off the park by Declan and by Thomas Soucek. By the way, Declan Rice had an absolutely fantastic game. Gomez came on, played well, didn't really impact. Soucek, Still and Rice, they snuffed them out. Same with Rodriguez. He tried to make things happen. Didn't really. James Rodgers. Didn't make anything happen at all, really. And massive credit to them. Well, Declan was just magnificent in that game as well. Looks like a top midfielder. Often looking at that game, what would we do without him? I don't think he'll go in this upcoming window, but I was looking at it thinking, who would we replace him with? What would we do? Got almost everything to his game. Aside from pace and regular goals, he's got everything to his game. But you don't need that. But even near the end, he's running down the wing. Do you see the cross he put over when he ran down the wing and crossed the ball? Fizzed it over. That was his left foot. That's his weaker foot. You often hear about these players throughout the ages who stay on and do extra training. I mentioned Lampard. Lampard was known as one of them. When the manager said, right, pack up and go home, Lampard's still there doing drills. You've heard all the David Beckham practicing free kick after free kick after free kick. Ronaldo, not the fat one, the other one. Constantly practicing, striking the ball and stuff like that. Players put in hard work. And you just get the impression that that's also the case. And you've got to praise Declan for putting in those extra hours. I think he's working on his long passing. I think he's working on his dribbling. He's working on his shooting. He's going to get what he deserves, which is he's going to be a top-class player. Absolutely wonderful. But I've spoken about both of our players there. The best player that West Ham had on the pitch was Angelo Ogbonna. You got the impression that game could have carried on for another 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and Ogbonna still would have headed away everything that came his way. I thought it was a masterful performance from him. And it was so good that, as I referred to in the review, it wasn't even as if I got to the end and whatever the referee, the fourth official held up 3-4 minutes, whatever it might have been. I wasn't bothered. And in fact, I thought Antonio goes running into the box and sort of miskicks it or whatever, and then Lanzini sort of hits it over. But fine. Not a problem. We were still attacking them. I just thought it was an absolutely immense performance from Ogbonna. I thought the whole team, a lot of them came out with a lot of credit. Fornals, technique let him down a little bit, but worked so hard. Bowen, very late with his pass, as I mentioned in the review. Just almost hangs on to it for a second too long. That being said, when he did get it right, he brought it over and put it onto his left foot. Did a lovely cross, a perfect cross for Fornals, who'd found space in the box. I spoke about Declan Rice and about him doing a bit of extra work. I don't know what anyone does. I don't even know in these COVID times if you're allowed to do extra training. You might have to, when it's all finished, take your test and go home. I don't know. But if it is allowed, then I don't know if someone can work on Fornals or just work on a little bit of his technique. See, if his technique just gets 10% better, allied to his work rate, we're going to have a really, really good player on our hands. But I don't want to overly criticise him because I just thought he played tremendously well. Absolutely brilliant performance from him. Soufal, again, you see the value of the player at right back. Really good. Honestly, he had Richarlison at the end crying on the floor. Granted, it might have been Soucek that trod on his toe. But I love their little partnership. It often seems in that central midfield that you've got Declan Rice on the left and Soucek on the right, which means he often does little 1-2s with Soufal. Clearly they know each other's game from the national team and from Slavia Prague. I think it works in West Ham's favour all the time. Just before I get on to Mikel Antonio, which is who I'll finish up talking about, in fact, we'll deal with Ben Rama on a separate video because I said I was going to talk about him anyway. But this is, I'd like to think things have changed a little bit. I will not lie to you and say that the video I was about to on Ben Rama, I was sort of thinking if he doesn't really feature against against Everton, then I think we're going to find a way to null and void his transfer. I can't see any way forward to see him play. I was pleased about seeing him play 90 minutes. It's sort of changed my thinking. So I'll still do the video on Benrahma, but I think the tone and the nature of that video has probably changed somewhat. I do want to talk about Lanzini as well, though. Whilst nothing really happened for Lanzini, I mentioned when Antonio fell over in the box. What I was absolutely delighted with, again, he looked sharp. And right near the end, when Everton were on the attack, there was one point where Lanzini found himself at left back and he won a tackle. A really good tackle as well. Came over the ball, carried the ball up the pitch, played the ball inside, and we went on a little attack. And then shortly after that, he won a header in defence as well. And David Moyes is going to be loving all of this. He's going to be loving seeing his creative players. Benrahma did some of this as well, which is what we'll discuss, but maybe tomorrow. He's going to be loving seeing some of this, to see his creative players getting there and getting stuck in. There was actually a point in the second half, when who was playing on the left? I think it might have been Richarlison and it might have been James Rodriguez, and they tried to play a little 1-2, and it might have made it a little bit confusing for Soucek and Bowen, who were marking them. They basically played a little triangle with somebody else and sort of changed position. But Soucek got drawn in, and Bowen tracked the player all the way back. That's the sort of understanding. That's why Bowen gets in the team as much as any other reason. And I think if Moyes is seeing that from other players in the team, then he's going to be thinking, well, this is exactly the sort of thing that I like, and this is exactly the sort of thing I want to see. In terms of Antonio, which is the last player I want to speak about, I'm just absolutely delighted to see him back. Again, it feels as if the planets have aligned in so many ways. The start of the new year, first game of 2021, we win. Nice and comfortable in the table, just before transfer window to give us time to look at that. And I feel it's fallen well for Antonio as well, because he's had a little bit of a game and then 35 minutes back. And now he's going to get another sort of 10 days at least on the training ground to work on his fitness. So it's another opportunity to train him well, to get him up to speed, to get the physios working with him. It's just timed it really, really well for us. But I was absolutely thrilled with the difference that Antonio made for the dynamic of the team. And I do think that's the right word, and that's a good word, because he has a drive and he has a will to win. And I referred to it after the Southampton game. How the Southampton team collectively took a 10-metre step back. And the commentator mentioned it in this game against Everton. He said that the Everton players know they're not going to get any rest now. He's given them a different proposition. And he was absolutely right. And it's exactly how I feel about it. Because he is relentless, and he's so strong, and he has desire, and he has the will to win. And just the way, all right, I know he sort of fell over, didn't he, when he sort of drove into the box. But there was an intent about it. There was an assurance about him wanting to drive, and a determination about him going towards the goal. And I also felt that about his hold-up play. I thought his hold-up play was precise and decisive. So when he took the ball and he was shielding the ball from the defender and he wanted to lay it off to Benrahma or whoever the case may be running on, I thought it was decisive. And I think that really helps all the players around him. It's a hell of an asset for West Ham. And I got this little... It will never happen. It will never happen. Those of you who've been watching Hammers Chat for a long time will know, even from when he was at Middlesbrough, Traore, I wanted Traore to play for West Ham. And then he played for Villa as well, didn't he? I've always really liked him. I think he's a brute. I really do. And there's something about it. I would just love us to try and sign that guy, and for him to make an Antonio out of him, to make an Arnautovic out of him, for Moyes to think, well, hold on, there's a wide player. I'm going to turn him into the forward, the focal point of my attack. I'd love to see it, because this is the whole point about Antonio. If that's how we're going to play, and I want us to play like this, I like this gritty, nasty way that we play, and then we've got this workhorse up front who's strong and fast and determined. you can't do that and then go and plonk Sebastian Haller in that system. So who we go and get as the understudy to Mikel Antonio is vital. Probably the bigger picture is that we get somebody and they're not the understudy to Mikel Antonio. Almost Mikel Antonio becomes the understudy. We get somebody in to take that role. Who are those players? Who are those fast, strong, technical players? I mentioned one in Traore. I don't know. But I tell you what, that's daydreaming for another time. As far as concerns the Everton games, as far as concerns the Premier League, 26 points after 17 games. It's just really, really good. Really happy. Absolutely buzzing. Hopefully you are. So anyway, enjoy your weekend. I'll catch up with you again tomorrow.